Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Certificate Programs, Certificate in Nutrition and Childcare, CNCC, CNCC-1 Nutrition for the Community Economics of Food Block-3 Meal Planning, Unit-10, Meal Planning for the School Child and Adolescent. 10.1, Introduction. The astonishing processes of growth and development have unfolded before you in this block. We took you through the dramatic phase of fetal growth and the rapid development of infants and preschoolers. Our journey through the lifespan continues in this unit with the school years and adolescence. As you read the following pages, you will learn that the rate of growth characteristic of infants and preschoolers does not continue during the school years. It slows down before increasing again as the child enters the period of adolescence. The pattern of growth and development changes as an individual grows from infancy to adulthood, as you would have realized by now. Here we are using the term pattern to mean the ways in which specific tissues, organs and body parts grow and develop. Particular times in the lifespan are associated with a particular growth pattern. For example, brain development is rapid during fetal life, whereas the development of sex organs takes place during the adolescent years. These changes in rate and pattern of growth have a significant influence on the need for nutrients. This is why the recommended dietary intakes of a school child or adolescent differ from those of an infant or preschooler. Besides the influence of age on requirements, you will also notice the influence of sex in determining nutrient needs. The needs for certain nutrients become different for boys and girls during the school years. Further, this difference persists later in life. In this unit, you will also study how important it is to develop good food habits. School children and adolescents enjoy a sense of independence. They like to make their own decisions about what they should eat and how much to eat. It is important, therefore, to give them the knowledge they need to make wise food choices. As you read on, you will come across several points related to encouraging good food habits, ensuring adequate food intake and planning meals and diets for school children and adolescents. Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to describe the characteristics of the school years and adolescence. List the recommended dietary intakes for the school child and the adolescent and discuss the important factors in planning meals and diets for school children and adolescents. In addition to the need for providing sufficient nutrients to support growth and development, vigorous physical activity usually characteristic of the school years makes its own demands on the body. Physical activity, as you know, influences energy needs. The child who participates in vigorous sports would obviously need more energy. Attention has also to be paid to the need for increased fluid intake. Heavy activity means more perspiration and therefore more losses of water and minerals like sodium and potassium. There is no doubt, therefore, that a satisfactory dietary pattern and food habits help to ensure that the child remains healthy and grows normally. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. 10.2.1 Recommended dietary intakes for the school child. We have so far noted several characteristics of the school years. Some of the features which would obviously influence nutrient needs are A. Differences in rate of growth between boys and girls. B. Differences in body composition of boys and girls. C. Growth and development of muscles, expansion of blood volume and increase in size of various body organs. D. Considerable mineralization of bones and formation of permanent teeth. Which nutrient requirements do you think would be influenced? Let us consider each of the above characteristics one by one. A. Differences in the rate of growth would influence both energy and protein needs. You are familiar with the fact that protein is needed to support growth. You also know that protein in the diet will be properly utilized only if it also provides enough energy. In other words, both protein and energy needs would be influenced by the rate of growth. The needs for several other nutrients also change. B. Differences in body composition would influence energy needs. In particular, Body composition influences energy needs. We mentioned that boys have more muscle tissue and less adipose tissue compared to girls. Since muscle tissue is more active metabolically speaking, it requires more energy to sustain its activity. This means that more muscle tissue in the body would mean more energy needs. Expansion of blood volume pushes up iron needs. Blood volume increases keeping pace with the growth of the rest of the body. As blood volume increases, the number of blood cells also goes up and therefore the amount of hemoglobin required also increases. You know, of course, that hemoglobin is an iron-containing compound. Mineralization of bones and formation of teeth influence calcium needs. As the skeleton grows, more calcium is constantly deposited so as to add strength and rigidity to the bones. Similarly, calcium is also being deposited in the permanent teeth. This is why a liberal intake of calcium becomes necessary. Now that we have understood some of the important factors influencing nutrient needs, let us study Table 10.2. The table summarizes the recommended dietary intake for school children. If you look at the table carefully, you would notice that the age of the child influences requirements. There is an increase in the RDIs for energy, protein, calcium, thiamine, B1, riboflavin, B2, and niacin as age increases. The RDIs for vitamin C, folic acid, vitamin B12, and vitamin A remain unchanged from the age of 7 to the age of 12. The influence of sex becomes evident after the age 0-10 years. This is the reason why RDIs are specified separately for boys and girls in the 10 to 12 years category. The RDI for iron is a case in point. There are sharp sex differences in iron needs. Why is this so? Table 10.2, Recommended dietary intakes for school children. Look at the screen for table content dash. Highlight 5 gives you a part of the story. A full discussion would be too technical and therefore is beyond the scope of this unit. You may also have noticed that by the age of 10 to 12 years, the child requires almost as much protein as the adult and more energy than the adult woman. Calcium and iron requirements are also considerable. This supports the conclusions we reached earlier in this discussion. Highlight 5 Working out iron need. Working out iron requirements means a lot of arithmetic. It is, in fact, a matter of addition. You have studied in Unit 5 of Block 2 that iron is lost from the body through urine, sweat and feces. These losses are, in fact, unavoidable and are called basal losses. Basal losses always occur whatever the circumstances. This is why we have called them unavoidable. You are also familiar with menstrual losses. In the case of girls, dietary iron is needed to replace these losses. Iron is also needed to support growth, especially increases in blood volume. Over and above all this, we need extra iron so that the body can store enough for times of emergency. In other words, iron requirements for boys and girls can be expressed thus. Iron requirements of the boy, needs for replacement of basal losses plus growth needs plus needs for improvement of body stores of iron. Iron requirements of the girl, needs for replacement of basal losses plus growth needs plus needs for improvement of body stores of iron plus needs for replacement of menstrual losses. From this it appears logical to assume that girls would require more iron. But the reverse is the case in the RDI listed in table 10.2. It doesn't make sense, does it? It's almost as if 2 plus 2 suddenly has become 5. Why is this so? The answer lies partly in differences in the absorption of iron. After the age of 10 years, boys absorb less iron, about 3%, as compared to girls, about 5%. This means that they must take in more iron in their diet to meet their needs in order to compensate for the lower absorption. Therefore, RDLS for iron is fixed higher for boys. Check your progress exercise. 1. 1. List 2 major characteristics of the school years that influence nutrient requirements. 2. List all those nutrients whose RDIs change based on sex in the 10 to 12 years category. 2. Look at figure 10.2. It shows the 10-12-year-old schoolgirls' RDLS for all nutrients as 100%. The schoolboys' RDI would be higher or lower, i.e. above or below 100. Now can you identify which nutrient needs are being illustrated? Label the figure appropriately as indicated in the case of B. You would notice that RDIs for girls are evenly mentioned as 100%. For calculation, use the following formula to work out the RDI as a percentage in the case of boys. RDI for boys divided by RDI for girl into 100 equals %. Then compare this with the figure mentioned in the graph for boys. This should help you identify the nutrients in the case of A and C. For example, in the case of B, the RDI for iron for boys equals 34 and the RDI for girls equals 19, so the percent RDI in the case of boys equals 34/19 by 100 equals 179. This is the same as the number indicated for boys in B, hence we can conclude that this is a representation of RDIs for iron. Figure 10.2 Comparison between RDIs for schoolgirls and boys. 10-12 years. Look at the screen for table content. 10.2.2 Meal planning for the school child. We have so far studied growth and development during the school years. We have also gone through the recommended dietary intakes for this age group. Now let us learn how to plan meals and diets for the school child. Do you recollect the main factors that need to be considered in meal planning? If you want to remind yourself once again, look at the figure in the margin. These factors are, of course, applicable to planning diets for any individual. The major specific considerations involved in planning balanced meals and diets for school children are listed in the subsequent discussion. We begin by first identifying the person for whom we are planning the diet. Whom are we planning for? Is the child in the 7 to 9 years / 1 or 12 years category? If the child is between 10 and 12 years of age, is the child a girl or a boy? What income group does the child belong to? What is the religious and cultural background? In which region does the child stay? Once you have listed the characteristics of the individual, look up the RDs for energy and protein. Which nutrients are of particular importance? Nutrients of particular importance in the school years are energy-giving nutrients, carbohydrates and fats, protein, iron and calcium. Which foods to select? When we plan diets, we have to decide on which foods to select and how much to give of these foods. The points to keep in mind are: include items from each of the 3 food groups, energy-giving, bodybuilding and protective/regulatory in each meal. Include an animal protein source in each meal if possible, and if income permits, use cereal pulse combinations to improve protein quality. What should be the meal pattern? The number of meals to be consumed would depend on the income of the family and the daily routine of the child. Here we must remember that the school timings are important. Some schools function from 7:30 or 8 am to 1:30 pm. Others function from 9:30 am to 3:30 or 4 pm. The meal timings, the number and even the nature of meals would vary accordingly. The meals consumed by the school child could follow any of the following pat/earns. A. Breakfast packed lunch tea dinner. B. Breakfast packed lunch late lunch dinner. C. Breakfast packed lunch late lunch tea dinner. D. Breakfast packed lunch late lunch tea dinner bedtime. A. Would be fairly common in the low income group. B and C are common in the middle income group, and 0 could be a meal pattern followed by the high income group. However, the meal pattern selected would depend on the convenience of the child and his/her preferences. Generally, meal frequency increases with increasing income. If you look at the RDLS, you would notice that school children have high energy requirements. This means that the total amount of food the child has to eat is considerable. A 4-meal pattern could pose problems for some children. Increasing meal frequency, if possible, would Therefore, help the child eat smaller quantities at a time while taking in more food in the whole day. Check your progress exercise. 2.1. Look at figure 10.3. A. Neerja has a specific problem. How would you solve it? Answer in brief, not more than 1 or 2 sentences, in the space indicated in the figure. Before you start, here's a hint. Neerja's problem is related to meal frequency. Figure 10.3. A. Solving Neerja's problem. Look at the screen for table content dash. 2. Shyam in figure 10.3. B. Has a different problem. What would you tell him? Answer in 1 or 2 sentences in the space indicated in the figure. We can give you a hint. Shyam's problem is related to irregular meals. Figure 10.3. B. Solving Shyam's problem. Look at the screen for table content dash. What are the other specific considerations? The school child, unlike the preschooler, spends a great deal of time away from home. He is exposed to various influences as a result of which he picks up new food habits. He tends to miss breakfast and munches snacks in between meals. He seldom bothers about packed lunches. The following section gives you ideas on how to overcome these difficulties and ensure satisfactory diets. Let us start with points about the main meals. 1. Main meals. Breakfast should be substantial and should be planned around a cereal-based preparation. Milk/egg/pulse and a fruit should be included. Choice of items would be dependent on the money available. Dinners and lunches must be balanced meals based on items rich in protein, vitamins and minerals. They are the most substantial meals in the day. With the kind of meal pattern we adopt, we would give a packed lunch for the child to eat at school. In addition, a late lunch could be given at home when the child returns from school, as you have noticed in the earlier discussion on meal patterns. In such a case, the late lunch would be lighter. Generally, dinner can be a more elaborate meal because the child can eat at leisure, but this does not mean it should be a heavy meal. Here, of course, the terms heavy and light refer to contributions to the total energy provided by the day's diet. One must remember that the heavier meals such as lunch and dinner should also contribute more protein, vitamins and minerals as compared to meals such as tea time or even breakfast. In addition to these, we must also be aware of the possibility of the child receiving a midday meal or snack as part of a nutrition program in schools. We will learn more about this program in Block 6. Some schools offer a complete meal whereas others offer a ready-to-eat snack. There is considerable variation from one state to another. According to the recommendations, midday meals should provide at least 1/3 of the daily energy RDI and about half of the daily protein need. Packed lunches should be easy to carry and handle, require minimum preparation time and should be balanced. The lunch must include sources of protein, vitamins and minerals in addition to energy. Dry preparations such as a dry pulse or cottage cheese, paneer, and vegetable or meat-vegetable preparations can be offered. Items like sandwiches and pizzas are common in the high-income group. Lower and middle-income groups usually serve items like paranthas/rotis/rice and dal or vegetable, idlis and sambar, curd rice/tamarind rice and similar preparations. Think for a minute or two about commonly packed lunches in your region. Are they balanced? If they ate not balanced, any of the following suggestions might help to depend on which food group is missing or inadequate. The bodybuilding group. I. Add a pulse in suitable form. 2. Add cottage cheese, paneer, or milk-based dessert. 3. Add meat in a suitable form. 4. Include egg in suitable form. The protective regulatory group. I. Add a fruit or fruit-based preparation. 2. Add a vegetable preparation. Usually, the energy-giving group does find a place in a packed lunch, so we have left that out in the list. Some good ideas on packed lunches are given in Annexure 6 at the end of this block. You might be tempted to try some of those and even make your own modifications. Annexure 6 also gives practical tips on how to pack lunches for children. 2. Snacks selected should be balanced rather than just calorie-rich and should supply substantial amounts of nutrients, particularly energy, protein, calcium and iron. Snacks can be offered mid-morning and at tea time. The packed lunch can also take the form of a snack. School children, in fact, are very fond of eating snacks in between meals and during meal times. So you will have no problem in encouraging them to eat snacks. However, care has to be taken to select the right kind of snacks. Snacks, of course, should not be given close to the main meals or instead of the main meals. Too many sweet, sticky foods should not be consumed in between meals. This predisposes the child to tooth decay. Foods such as chips, wafers, soft drinks should not be consumed in excess since they contribute chiefly energy because of their fat and sugar content and little else. Such foods are in fact referred to as junk food. We will talk more about junk foods in section 10.3.2. 3. Serving size and meal frequency. Serving size, the amount served at a time, should be planned to keep the child's capacity to eat in mind. This is where increasing meal frequency helps. 4. Food preferences. Variety must be included by selecting different types of foods and introducing variety in color, flavor, texture, form and shape. The child enjoys foods prepared using different cooking methods and food combinations. Sufficient attention must be given to the child's likes and dislikes. Items disliked should be included in a form readily accepted by the child. For example, if a child does not like a particular vegetable, it could be boiled, added, mashed and mixed with other foods to make cutlets that the child might like. Similarly, if a child does not like milk, it could be offered as curd, custard or paneer, cottage cheese. Preparations. You have so far studied the major considerations relevant to meal planning for the school child. This should lead you to some conclusions about the type of meals, meal frequency, serving size and suitable snacks for the child. We mentioned earlier that it is during the school years that food habits become well established. In this sense, it is a crucial phase. It is a fact that poor dietary habits can lead to chronic diseases such as obesity and heart disease later in life. Eating too much fat and sugar can make the child put on weight and become obese. This can also lead to the deposition of fatty substances in certain blood vessels, particularly those of the heart, ultimately resulting in heart disease. UV1. Learn more about this in Block 5. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. Check your progress exercise. 3.1. Mala is preparing a packed lunch for Rohit, her 10-year-old son. He dislikes green leafy vegetables, but Mala knows they are good for his health. A. Which of the following alternatives would you recommend to Mala for ensuring that Rohit will consume the green leaf vegetables? GLV as pair of H. Balanced packed meal. You can select more than one alternative. Give reasons, or your selection. I. Preparation made of GLV and potatoes. 2. Incorporating GLV in the dough for rotis or puris or any similar preparation / stuffing GLV in idlis or dosas along with potatoes. 3. Biscuits using dough in which GLV is incorporated and plain dough, to give biscuits in 2 colors. 4. Mixing milk, khova, sugar and GLV paste and cooking to give a halwa-like preparation. V. Preparation of cutlet tikkis using GLV to be consumed with bread or rotis or rice. Y. Preparation of pakoras / bondas with GLV and besan, Bengal gram flour. B. From the alternatives, I, Y, given earlier, select 2 which could be interesting tea time snacks but would not be suitable by themselves for a packed lunch. Children must be encouraged to adopt healthy eating practices. It is often very effective to tell children about these aspects in an enjoyable, constructive way as illustrated in the following rhyme. Figure 10.4. Do you think the message will get across? You may be able to think of several other ways to communicate such messages to children. Figure 10.4. A rhyme with a message. You have now gone through a number of facts, principles and ideas related to the school years and meal planning for the school child. To help you along, here is a list of points to remember in planning and serving meals for school children. Points to remember. Look at the screen for table content. 10.3 The adolescent. The individual between 13 and 18 years of age is called an adolescent. The period of adolescence heralds major physical, mental and emotional changes. You have learnt earlier that infancy and the preschool years are periods of rapid growth. So is adolescence. In fact, the rate of growth in adolescence is second only to infancy. This period witnesses sharp increases in height and weight which, as you are aware, are indicators of growth. Do you know that body weight almost doubles during the period from 10 years to 18 years? The boy who weighs about 32 kilograms after crossing the age of 10, weighs almost 59 kilograms by the time he has crossed the age of 18. Further, there is substantial growth and development of many specific body systems such as the skeletal system and the muscular system. Muscles and bones increase in size and strength. The heart, lungs, stomach and kidneys attain their final adult size and level of functioning during the adolescent growth spurt. You may be aware the term growth spurt refers to a sudden increase in the rate of growth. There is also a great increase in blood volume. This is necessary for the improvement in the functional capacity of the respiratory, digestive and circulatory systems. As the period of adolescence draws to a close, growth is completed and adult size is reached. By then all organs and body systems reach their maximum possible level of maturity and development. The appearance of sex characteristics during the adolescent years is of great importance. The major observable sex-related changes include enlargement of the breast, pubic and axillary hair, and menarche in girls between 12 and 14 years of age. The term menarche refers to menstruation or the monthly loss of blood, for 3 to 7 days, in the girl. It signals the fact that her reproductive system has begun functioning and is approaching maturity. It is important to note that the growth spurt precedes menarche. In the case of boys, hair appears in the pubic, axillary and other body regions such as the cheek, chin and upper lip, and there is a change in the voice. We have just talked about several sex characteristics. We must add that sex characteristics are basically of two types, primary and secondary, as indicated in the chart on the next page. Look at the screen for table content. The chart mentions alterations in body build and appearance. In the case of girls, fat deposits are laid down in the abdominal region and the breadth of the hip increases. In boys there is an increase in the muscle mass, particularly in the shoulder and upper arm regions. Such differences in body composition first appeared in the school years, if you remember. They now become well established. The physiological changes we have just described mark the onset of puberty. You would probably have heard this term before. What does it mean? Puberty refers to the physiological changes involved in sexual maturation as well as the other changes that occur during the period of adolescence. Once these changes have taken place, i.e., at the end of puberty, sexual reproduction becomes possible. However, we are left wondering about one crucial aspect. How does this amazing transformation take place? What causes these effects? These changes are, in fact, brought about by the action of specific hormones, the androgens, in the case of males, and the estrogens, in the case of females. Androgens and estrogens are also called sex hormones. The chart given below highlights their influence on growth, body structure and function. Sex hormones changes in body structure, body composition, rate of growth, sex organs. It is quite obvious that the sex hormones regulate sexual maturation. In addition to this, they also trigger off changes related to growth and development. It is almost like pressing a switch. The sex hormones account for the pronounced sex differences in growth in adolescence. The timing of the growth spurt and the nature of the changes in body composition are examples of these differences. The adolescent boy gains more height at a faster rate than girls. His growth spurt, however, starts later than that of the girls. Skeletal growth continues longer and more muscle is added. In the case of the adolescent girl, more total body fat is deposited, as we mentioned earlier. As you would have understood by now, adolescence is a period of physiological stress for the body because of the extremely rapid rate of growth. The diet plays a crucial role in promoting and sustaining growth. It is in this context that we must talk of adolescent pregnancy. In India, many adolescent girls become mothers because of the early age at marriage. Many have already had 2 or 3 children before they cross the age of 20. Highlight 6 emphasizes the burden of supporting both growth and fetal needs in adolescent pregnancy. We have dealt with it in the subsection on RDIs so that you are better able to understand the impact of pregnancy on the nutrient requirements of the adolescent girl. Viewed in this context, there is need to pay particular attention to the diets of girls between 10 and 16 years, since they are future mothers and the health of the next generation depends on their health. If they are given additional supplementation, the earlier deficits in growth and development can be made up to a great extent. Once adolescence is past and growth is completed, any health or nutrition measure will have no influence. On the other hand, if determined efforts are made to give the additional nutritious food over and above what they usually eat, their nutritional status can be improved. This is true for boys as well. The extra food aids catch up growth, as you learnt in Unit 9 of this block. The term, of course, means that the child catches up on the growth that could not be achieved earlier. Compare the situation to 2 individuals participating in a race. Initially, one maintains a steady pace, while the other lags behind. Then the latter increases his speed and both reach the finishing line at the same time. If the second runner does not increase his pace soon enough, it will become impossible for him to catch up with the other runner. Here, as you would have noticed by now, the first individual represents a person undergoing growth at the normal pace. The second represents an individual who lagged behind in growth initially but caught up later on. See Figure 10.5. Figure 10.5. Adolescence is the last chance for catch-up growth. Look at the screen for table content. 10.3.1 Recommended dietary intakes for the adolescent. The recommended dietary intakes for adolescents are listed in Table 10.3. Table 10.3 Recommended dietary intakes for adolescents. Look at the screen for table content. If you look at the table carefully, you would notice the high RDAs for energy, protein, iron and calcium. This is necessary to support the rapid growth of all body tissues. Adolescents, like school children, are generally very active. This pushes up energy needs. The increased blood volume and growing skeleton account for the increase in iron and calcium needs. In the case of the girl, loss of iron through the monthly blood loss is also considered when working out the iron needs. Can you explain why? The discussion on differences between boys and girls in Highlight 5 is also relevant here. Thiamine, riboflavin and niacinamide are specified, as you know, according to energy needs. The more energy need, the more would be the need for these B-complex vitamins. Iodine is a mineral not mentioned in Table 10.3. This is because the exact RDIs for the trace elements have not been worked out. However, it is very important for the adolescent to be provided with sufficient iodine in the diet. Iodine is, as you know, a part of the hormone thyroxine produced by the thyroid gland. Thyroxine regulates the rate of metabolism and is crucial for proper physical and mental growth. This makes it important particularly in high growth phases such as infancy and adolescence. We have so far taken a look at the recommended dietary intakes for adolescents. You would realize how high these RDIs are even in comparison with the adult. Let us consider the adolescent girl. Her nutrient needs are close to that of the adult sedentary woman and even exceed them in the case of several nutrients such as energy, protein, calcium, and the B vitamins. Now, how would these RDIs change if the adolescent girl becomes pregnant? You will find the answer in Highlight 6. Highlight 6. Pregnancy in adolescence. Adolescence is a period of physiological stress because of the rapid rate of growth. To sustain this growth, high intake of several nutrients are required. The girl, therefore, carries the burden of growth needs. In other words, this means the burden of meeting the high nutrient needs required for growth. Now imagine the adolescent girl who is pregnant. She would have to bear the additional burden of increased nutrient needs in pregnancy. You can imagine the strain on her body. Figure 10.6 shows this symbolically as a heavy burden on the adolescent girl. The girl has to carry the almost unbearable burden of maintaining her own growth and development as well as maintaining the growth and development of the fetus. Figure 10.6 The heavy burden of adolescent pregnancy. Now, for comparison's sake, suppose we assume that the adolescent girl's additional nutrient needs remain the same as that for an adult woman in pregnancy. Look at the chart. Look at the screen for table content dash. We have listed only 4 nutrients here. But this shows the sharp increase in nutrient needs if the adolescent girl becomes pregnant. Figure 10.7 uses bar graphs to highlight this aspect. Figure 10.7 Increased nutrient needs in adolescent pregnancy. Look at the screen for table content dash. The situation can even become life-threatening for the girl, particularly if she entered the period of adolescence weak and poorly nourished. In this case, the burden becomes threefold. In addition to the burden of growth and pregnancy needs, she also has to bear the burden of her own undernutrition and underdevelopment. It is, therefore, crucial to delay pregnancy till the girl has crossed adolescence and become an adult. Those adolescent girls who are pregnant need special care so that they and their infants can remain healthy. Check your progress exercise. 4. 2. Why should we pay particular attention to the diets of adolescent girls? Give reason which you think is most important. 10.3.2 Meal planning for the adolescent. In addition to factors such as nutritional adequacy, income, acceptability and availability, we must keep the following major considerations in mind. Whom are we planning for? Is the adolescent in the 13-15 years/16 to 18 years category? Is the adolescent a girl or a boy? What income group does the person belong to? Where does the person stay? What is the religious and cultural background? Once you have outlined these characteristics, you can list the RDIs for the adolescent. Which nutrients are of particular importance? Nutrients of particular importance in adolescence are energy-giving nutrients, carbohydrates and fats, protein, iron and calcium. Which foods to select? Selection of foods for the adolescent's diet would mean including items from each food group in each meal, good energy and protein sources, cereal pulse combinations to improve protein quality, animal protein, if possible and acceptable, good calcium and iron sources. As mentioned earlier, the items and combinations selected would be determined by how much money is available to be spent on food. Which foods the person likes or dislikes would also be of importance. What meal pattern should be adopted? The daily routine of an adolescent who attends school would be similar to that discussed earlier for the school child. The college-going adolescent would, however, tend to have a more variable schedule. One would, therefore, need to consider the likelihood of the person consuming a packed lunch on some days and consuming lunch at home on others. As in the case of school children, well-planned, balanced snacks are of importance. They help to increase the meal frequency and thus decrease the tendency of the main meals to become heavy. This would ensure that the child consumes enough food to meet his needs. Suitable snacks providing substantial energy, protein, calcium and/or iron can be offered mid-morning and at tea time. Figure 10.8 Losing weight the easy way. What specific considerations should we keep in mind? In addition to the points we mentioned in the case of the school child, some other aspects become important. Adolescents sometimes adopt extreme or bizarre, strange, Diet patterns in order to reduce weight in the case of girls or build muscles, in the case of boys. Figure 10.8 takes a light-hearted look at the tendency of adolescent girls to try different diets in search of the ideal cure for overweight. Adolescent girls frequently want to lose weight, sometimes even when there's no need. They, of course, seek the easiest way to do it. They look for diets which can help them reduce hours or days. But we must remember that they must be actively discouraged from adopting such diets. There is no such shortcut to weight reduction or muscle building for that matter. The same is true of boys. Remember that we are using the word diet here to indicate a rather extreme diet pattern. The best advice is to keep to a reasonable dietary pattern. Reducing or increasing the total amount of food consumed must be done with great care because of its impact on growth. People frequently make statements such as try this diet. You could lose 8 inches off your waistline in 10 days. Or you can add 2 inches to your shoulder muscles in a fortnight with this diet. Adolescents must know that such statements are wrong. They should never cut down on intake of water or adopt diets based on protein foods only. Such measures are dangerous and can lead to serious diseases and even death. The best and safest remedy for overweight in the growing years is plenty of exercise. Overeating should, of course, be avoided. 2. Too much emphasis should not be placed on fat or carbohydrate-rich items, particularly refined carbohydrate or sugar-rich items. Consumption of too much ready-to-eat snacks and processed foods also needs to be avoided. Foods such as milk, dark green leafy vegetables, deep yellow vegetables and fruits and whole cereals should be emphasized. Eating such foods helps to add valuable minerals and vitamins to the diet. Vitamin A and vitamin C rich foods are frequently neglected and must be included in addition to iron and calcium rich foods. 3. Even in the matter of food, group acceptance is very important for the adolescent. They quickly adopt food patterns prevalent among their friends. They frequently consume snacks which are junk foods such as potato chips and fast foods such as noodles, pizzas, hamburgers, fish and chips. You are already familiar with the term junk food. Let us also talk of fast foods. Fast foods are generally not elaborate and can be prepared by relatively simple cooking methods. They are commonly served at snack bars/pizza parlors in cities. The fast foods available commercially tend to be rich in energy and may not provide enough protein, vitamins, minerals and fiber. However, these foods can easily be modified to improve their nutrient content. A sandwich with butter can be modified to a sandwich with a paneer or meat or egg filling mixed with tomato and onion. Pizzas are commonly described as junk foods, but they can be nutritious. A pizza with cheese and mixed vegetables as topping is balanced because the pizza base is made of refined wheat flour, maida. Similarly, when hamburgers are made with the meat or cottage cheese and mixed vegetable cutlet rather than just potato, they become a balanced snack. This shows how simple modifications can help to make common and popular snacks more nutritious and balanced. You have so far gone through a number of aspects related to meal planning for the adolescent. Here's a quick review of points you would find useful. Check your prop S6 Read the following statements carefully. Each statement gives dietary instruction for adolescents. Indicate whether each statement is correct or incorrect. Give reasons for your choice. Adolescents are usually extremely active and hence must consume substantial amounts of foods providing energy such as sugar-rich items and items rich in refined carbohydrates. 2. Snacks for adolescents should be rich in energy with some protein, vitamin and mineral content. 3. Fast foods cannot be balanced and hence must be eliminated from the diet. 4. Consumption of milk, vegetables and fruits must be encouraged in adolescence. Using iodized salt can help to supply adequate iodine in the diet. 10.4. Let us sum up. This unit discussed the important characteristics of the school years and adolescence. we learnt that the rate of growth slows down during the school years and then increases again in adolescence. This sharp increase in rate of growth is called the adolescent growth spurt. Considerable development of organs and body systems takes place in the school years. This process continues during adolescence so that maximum growth and development is achieved by the end of the period. Sex differences appear in growth and body composition between boys and girls after the age of 10 years and become more pronounced during adolescence. These differences influence nutrient requirements. The process of sexual development in adolescence is marked by the appearance of primary and secondary sex characteristics. Keeping in mind the high nutrient needs and the child's capacity to eat, it is preferable to increase meal frequency and include nutritious snacks mid-morning and at tea time. Popular and acceptable snacks/dishes can often be modified to make them more nutritious. Giving nutritious packed lunches is important both for school children and college-going adolescents. Particular care has to be taken to ensure that the school child and adolescent adopt good, healthy food habits. Poor habits can result in the individual falling prey to certain diseases like heart disease and obesity later in life. Children and adolescents must be encouraged to consume less of food supplying only or mostly energy and, instead, have more of foods rich in energy, protein, vitamins and minerals. Too much fat and sugar must be avoided. Adolescents and school children may be tempted to try and reduce weight or build muscles. Modifying food intakes in any way can have adverse effects on growth and hence should not be tried. One final point about children indulging in vigorous physical activity. Physical activity, such as sports, pushes up energy needs. More energy-giving foods must, therefore, be included in the diet. Care has also to be taken to ensure adequate intake of fluids and minerals such as sodium and potassium. 10.5 Glossary. Axillary, region of the armpits. Circulatory system, the system of blood vessels in the body which carries blood from the heart to the tissues and then returns it from the tissues to the heart. Growth spurt, a sudden increase in the rate of growth in terms of height or weight. Hormones, chemical substances secreted by certain glands which exert their effects elsewhere in the body. For example, the sex hormones are produced by the sex glands and cause effects in the sex organs and are responsible for the appearance of secondary sex characteristics. Menarche, the time when menstruation, i.e. monthly loss of blood in the girl, begins. In other words, the time when the first menstrual cycle occurs. Processed foods, foods that have been subjected to certain procedures such as drying, exposure to heat/cold and then packaged for sale. Processed foods usually require further cooking after unpackaging. Pubic, middle part of the lower abdominal region. Pubic hair refers to the hair appearing in this region. Ready-to-eat foods, foods already cooked by roasting or frying or baking which can be consumed as such. Respiratory system, the system consisting of the body parts necessary for breathing, i.e., eye, nasal cavity, entry for air through the nose, which lead into a tube called the 2. Trachea. The trachea branches into the 3. Bronchi which enter the 4. Lungs. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.